Hi, boys and girls. It is time for social studies. Yesterday we started learning about kings and queens and what it means to be royal and to live in a palace. And today we're going to learn about the royal family. Because remember, anything that belongs to the king and queen means that it's royal. So when they have their family, their kids, they're called the royal family. So let's talk about that. Most kings and queens wanted to make sure they had lots of children and made sure that those children understood what it meant to be part of the royal family. But being a prince or a princess had both advantages and disadvantages. And those are big words, but advantages means that there are good things about being in the royal family, and disadvantages means that there are some not so good things about being in a royal family. This picture shows a picture of King George V of England, the Queen, and their 4 sons. As you can see in the picture, the children in the royal family got to wear fancy clothing. They lived with their parents in the palace, which gave them plenty of space to run and play. Fine furniture and other beautiful things always surrounded them. For many kings and queens, having children was not just a matter of wanting to raise a family. In fact, children were the key to the future prosperity. That means it prosper. That means that they were a very good royal family, and that they produced a lot, and that they were the royal family for a long time, and that they were very successful and part of a wealthy family. But why were children so important? Once a person became king, he usually remained king for the rest of his life. The period of time during which he ruled was called the king's reign. So when the king was in charge, it was called the reign, like this king, King George. So when they talked about his time as being king, they would talk about the reign of King George, not the rain that comes down from the sky or rains with your horses. It's reign of being in charge of his kingdom. And when that king died, his reign ended, and one of the children from the royal family became a new ruler. And then it was time for their reign. When you inherit something, which means that someone else, usually a relative, gives you something that once belonged to them. Often when a person dies, their property, the things that they own, including their belongings and money, are passed on to family members who inherit these things. This is what happened to kingdoms when the ruling king or queen died. Their power, their right to sit on the throne and wear the crown, was always passed to someone else in the family. Royal families always wanted children, so the power to rule the kingdom stayed in their family. If there were no children, sometimes the power to rule the kingdom went to a different family. Someone who inherits something is called an heir. In a kingdom, princes and princesses were heirs to the throne because they were to inherit the throne. The oldest son, the one most likely to be the heir to the throne, is the one that's called the crown prince. That means he's going to wear the crown someday. And he is called the crown prince because he's the next person to wear the king's crown and rule the kingdom. If there is no son, the oldest daughter is called the crown princess because she will be the next person to wear the crown and rule the kingdom. Remember that the crown is a symbol of power, and whoever wears it is in charge. This photograph shows King George V of England, the Queen, and their 4 sons. The oldest of the sons is the crown prince because he will be the next king. And he doesn't say exactly, but it's probably this one. He looks pretty tall, so he might be the oldest son. The adults treat him with great respect, even though he is only a teenager. But people hold doors for him, they bow to him, because he has the important status of being the next king. He has grown up having people serve him and tell him that he is very important. This is a picture. This is a picture of a palace in a country called Morocco. Inside this big, beautiful palace lives a crown prince named Moulay Hassan. He lives with his father, mother, and little sister. His father is the king of Morocco. Moulay was born in 2003 and is the oldest son of the king. So that means now in 2020, he's 17 years old. Moulay will be the next king of Morocco because he is the oldest son and the crown prince of Morocco. A crown prince or princess is a very important member of the royal family, and he or she receives a special education and extra special care in order to someday rule the kingdom. But what happens to the other princes and princesses, those who are not the oldest and heirs to the throne? Kings and queens often arranged marriages for their children. This meant that the prince and princesses usually did not get to choose whom they were going to marry. Their parents decided for them. This was because marriage was used as a way to form partnerships between two kingdoms, or a way to form two kingdoms for two kingdoms to rule together as a team. When a prince or princess married someone from another kingdom, as in this picture of a wedding between a princess from England and a prince from Germany, it was an important event, and all the most important people from those two kingdoms were invited because it meant that those two kingdoms were going to be friends in the future. There were definitely advantages to being a member of a royal family, especially for those who liked living in palaces and wearing nice clothes. But being a prince or princess wasn't all fun and games. Some disadvantages include that they didn't get to always do whatever they wanted, especially when it came to whom they should marry. Often, anything they did was watched and commented on by others, and everything they did reflected on the kingdom and the royal family, so they had to be careful to behave in a royal manner at all times. So they always had to be on their best behavior, always have good manners. Because if they didn't, people would say, oh, look how the prince is acting, look how the prince is acting. That doesn't seem very royal. So on your worksheet today, your paper looks like this. And we have two boxes at the top. The top one says advantages to being in the royal family. Being a part of the royal family. And this box on my right, it says disadvantages of being part of a royal family. So advantages, you could draw a picture of somebody wearing fancy clothes, living in a palace, living in a castle, something that you think is being an advantage of being in the royal family, something good about being in the royal family. And this box over here, a disadvantage. We just talked about the things that were hard, and this may be kind of a hard picture to draw, but you could draw a picture of people because they didn't get to choose who they wanted to marry. They couldn't play outside whenever they wanted. They had to act a certain way all the time. So you can maybe find a picture. You could draw a picture of maybe a prince or princess that wants to play outside but doesn't get to. So you can find a good picture. So you can draw a good picture of the disadvantages, the not so good things about being in the royal family. And then down at the bottom, it says word work, and we have two words. We have the word reign, R-E-I-G-N, and that reign means ruling over a kingdom, and it says right here. So you're going to draw a picture of a king or a queen ruling over a kingdom during their reign, and then over here there's rain, R-A-I-N, water falling from the sky, and you can draw a picture of water falling from the sky. So boys and girls, have fun with your advantages and disadvantages of being in a royal family and practicing the word reign, ruling over a kingdom, and rain, water falling from the sky. Can't wait to see your pictures.